Okay, Danny, are you on the line?
I am here, yes.
Oh, okay, perfect. Okay, perfect. Okay, I guess it's a good time to start. Let me see the time. Okay, guys. Well, anyway, welcome to the call tonight. I'm very excited. In a few seconds, I'm going to introduce Danny, who will introduce our guest speaker. But before, let me tell you why I'm so excited about this. One of the biggest block that we have in building the business is not the how-to. The how-to is important, obviously, but the most important part is the mindset that we have. And that's why we see many times, I mean, you see people that become really successful in this business, and they don't seem to know as much as other people about the business. But the reason is because they have a mindset that's preparing them to succeed anytime. And the reason the mindset is so important because that helps us to go over the blocks that usually we create ourselves, or even over all the objections that we are going to have from people that we are talking to. Now, the reason I'm so excited about what you are going to hear tonight is because I discovered actually that technology years ago. And what she has done, she has taken it to the next level. This is something that helps you to program your brain in a very simple way. Every way that we react, and I'm saying that we react in our life, is because of programming that we have. And many times you say, well, if I know exactly what I have to do, because it's very simple, the business is really simple. You are just connecting with people, you are just presenting, you are following up. And you say, what the heck is happening to me? It's so simple. I just have to do this every day, but why I'm not doing it? Because those blockages that we have in our programming and the technology that we are going to see tonight is a very strong way for you to destroy that old programming and create a new one. And a programming not only is going to create your mindset for success, but even you can program the tools and the different techniques that we learn in how to prospect. And by the way, this is not only for business. This is going to help you in anything in your life, in relationships, and your physical fitness, etc. This can be applied to anything, and that's why it's so powerful. I'm going to introduce Danny Jolly. Danny took this training with Webb. She's a two-star Golden Circle. She's one of the leaders in Isagenix. And she is the one that actually had the idea first to have this event because she was so excited about what this thing is doing for her already. I just want to introduce Danny. Are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, well, yeah, I know. Well, you're very excited about this technology, and I know you're excited also to introduce Anne. Well, just go ahead. The floor is yours, and go ahead.
All right. Well, thanks, George. I am excited to be able to introduce our guest speaker. I've been to the LifeVision workshop, and I've been implementing this technology, and I have to tell you, it's becoming an incredible journey, and things that I have in my LifeVision are actually transpiring, which is very, very cool. So George is absolutely right. We all, not all of us, but most of us already know the how-to. It's just getting in that mindset of attracting it. So it's my pleasure to introduce Ann Webb, who is best known as the LifeVision expert. And she has coached thousands of successful entrepreneurs and network marketers in getting crystal clear in both their business and personal visions, resulting in more money, stronger leadership, better relationships, and even improved health and fitness. And I'm so impressed with the results that our clients are getting that, you know, when George and Adrian and Irene and I were talking, we just had to share this information with you guys. And Anne is the author and creator of the Creating Your Ideal Life Vision, which is a revolutionary program that's helped thousands start living their ideal life. Anne's specialty niche is working with MLM companies on both a corporate level and with individual distributor downlines. She consults on how to implement the organizational vision into the daily lives of the individual distributors. As part owner of Webb Audio Visual, Anne and her husband Scott have been associated with the MLM industry for years. Webb Audiovisual produces many MLM conventions all over the country, from Los Angeles to Orlando, including the annual conventions of Nu Skin, Marinda, LifeVantage, Max International, Sensi, Shackley, among dozens of others. So she knows what she's talking about, guys. So this is exciting. So now let me just turn it over to our LifeVision expert, Ann Webb.
All right. Well, thank you. It's good to be here. I appreciate you giving me this opportunity, George and Danny. And, you know, I'm excited about this call because whenever I get the chance to talk about something that I'm really, really passionate about, I always jump at it. And tonight I get to talk about two things I'm really passionate about, Ideal Life Vision and network marketing. So over the next 45, 50 minutes or so, right around there, let me just say straight out of the gate that I'm going to go bottom line, brass tacks, about how to create a compelling vision for your Isagenix business that will absolutely result in more impact and more money. And you see, in my experience, it's interesting that most network marketers I meet are slightly frustrated. Why? Well, it's simple. You know, some of them struggle with building and leading a team because they aren't sure how to help their downline or even themselves in duplicating and catching that company vision. Or they struggle with how to stay continually inspired and implement the success model they learned at trainings or at celebration. Or they have no idea how to juggle building a business while maintaining time with family and time to enjoy and grow in their personal life. Yet, even though this is the reality for most in the industry, that ability to change the status quo and to create the life they've always dreamed of appears impossible. But during this call, we're going to address all of that. And I'm going to share a tool or a system that can literally change your life and turn that around for you. Okay, bold statement? Absolutely. But I think at the end of this call, you'll agree that this one tool can help you live your ideal life and help you in your business like no other. Now, before I jump into all this exciting information, I'm going to just take 30 seconds or a minute and just tell you a little bit more about me. On a personal note, I'm married, mother of 5, grandmother to 3. I live in Salt Lake City, Utah, and I'm very passionate about traveling, the outdoors. Crazy must be my middle name. I'm kind of known for doing extreme things like jumping out of airplanes, waterfall rappelling, flying trapeze, getting a little too close to lions on safari, etc. On a professional note, I'm founder of Ideal Life Vision, my current company, and it's this Life Vision tool that I'll be talking about today that is what my husband and I used to build 2 multi-million-dollar companies over the last 20 years. And Danny already alluded to this, but my husband and I, we've been in this network marketing industry for years, probably close to 15, but not as distributors, just in support roles. We actually have never built a team because really that's not what we do. That's not really our purpose. My husband, again, he owns a AV company that produces network marketing conventions, you know, some of the big ones. And for me, I've coached thousands of network marketers on creating this very, very specific vision for not only their network marketing business, but really for their entire life. And more on that in just a minute. But since, you know, I brought up convention, let me just tell you what I know. That people seem like they're kind of like on a high right after convention or celebration. And I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. You know, super excited, motivated, ready to take on the world. They felt something there. They felt the passion. But doesn't it stink when 2 weeks later, and I guess 6 weeks later in this case, some of that starts to wear off? And so as a trainer, what I've seen, particularly in people that are new to the business, that there's this kind of disconnect between that passion they felt at celebration and how they translate that passion into their business and to keep it permanent in their daily business life. Excited and motivated, but a few weeks later, some of them don't even remember what they're supposed to do, and sometimes doubt, you know, the whole business thing, and that starts creeping in. So for those that have started building a downline, sometimes the concern becomes, how do I keep these people motivated? You know, how do I help them catch the vision and duplicate a business model that's working? So that's part of what I'm here to share with you now, how to do exactly that. So we're going to talk about some of these things, maybe 3 key principles that have been the key to success for a lot of the elite in the MLM industry. We're going to be discussing several strategies that are going to help you with your network marketing and the rest of your life today. But first, I want to start by sharing my own story. And this is the story of how I use this tool to go from making $24,000 combined income with my husband annually, $24,000 annually, to owning this multi-million-dollar company in less than 4 years, about 3.5 years. Now, although this isn't a story of how I made millions in a network marketing company, the principles do remain the same, and at the end of the story, we're going to bring it all back to you and your business. So my story actually begins quite a while ago, maybe closer to 25 years ago, and at that time, my husband and I were just getting out of graduate school. Now, when I married my husband, 6 years before that, when he asked me to marry him, he basically said this: if you'll put me through 6 years of college, when we get out, I promise you we'll be rich and you will never have to work again. And I guess my first mistake was that I believed him. But what happened is when we got out of graduate school, he went to an Ivy League school. And the only reason I tell you that is because all that means is when you get out, you now have tens and tens and tens and tens of thousands of dollars in student loans that you now have to pay back. And he took an entry-level position. And by the way, if you ever are offered an entry-level position, that's code for we're going to pay you peanuts. And he took that in Washington, D.C., which at that time was the most expensive city in the country. So let me just say these 3 factors of entry-level, D.C., Washington, D.C., and student loans meant there was no way that I was going to be able to stop working. But we had 2 kids at this point. We had been married for 6 years. We had 2 little girls, and I was determined, okay? I was determined to stay home because I had left them in daycare long enough. And so I decided to start a business from home. I thought that sounded like a great idea. I wouldn't have to leave my kids in daycare. So I started one, and it didn't work out, and I started another one, and another one, and another one. Let me just say I was a really, really bad business person back in those early days. In fact, I started 5, and of those 5 businesses, in about 2 years, I either went in the hole, I broke even, and my very best one, I think I made $200 total. So obviously I'm not helping with the family finances at all, and things are really, really bad. To kind of put it in perspective, we never went out to dinner unless our parents paid for it, and we'd been married for about 7 years, 6 or 7 years at this point. No new shoes for our babies, no tires for our car. I mean, nothing great was happening in our life. We were going down, and we were going down fast. And it all came to a head one time when, at some point you have to get a life, and so date night for us was playing games with our friends, and I would always make a pan of brownies and put out a pitcher of ice water. Well, one time we invited a whole bunch of friends over for our date night, and they decided they didn't want ice water with their brownies. They wanted a nice cold cup of milk. And so because they were such good friends, they didn't ask, but they just went straight to my fridge, opened it, saw a brand new gallon of milk, opened it, poured themselves a cup, passed it around, poured themselves another cup, passed it around, ultimately threw the empty container into the garbage. And I watched in horror because I will tell you when they left, I broke down in sobs because I knew we didn't have $1.25 to buy another gallon of milk for at least a week. Now, it's one thing when you and hubby have to put water on your cold cereal for the rest of the week, but it's a completely different thing when your babies cry because they're hungry because you had to put water in their bottles for about a week. And so that was our situation. Not good. In fact, we couldn't have hit rock bottom any more than we were already at. So at the same time, my dad calls me, and he lived in Utah, where, of course, we're back on the East Coast, and he calls and he said, "Hey, I know you don't have any money, but I'm going to send you some money because I want you to come home for Christmas because I have two things that I cannot wait to tell you about. And he was so excited and I was intrigued. I'm like, "Okay, Dad, just tell me." And he goes, "No, you have to wait until Christmas because I have to explain it and you have to be here." Now, so I was intrigued, and I remember dropping my suitcases, at Christmas in the entry. "Okay, Dad, spill it. What are these two ideas?" He walks in the other room, and he comes back with this cute little Christmas plaid bag. Okay, red and green plaid. Smelled really good. It had a little Christmas bow on it, a cinnamon stick, a gift tag. I said, "What is that?" And he goes, "This is your mom's wassail recipe." Now, I don't know how many of you know what wassail is. If I could sing, I'd sing you the song, "Here We Go A-Wassailing." But it's a Christmas cider, and my mom had a recipe. It was very similar to Russian tea. It was like tang and cinnamon and cloves and country time lemonade. And my dad told me that this girl that had grown up in my neighborhood had taken my mom's recipe, hadn't asked her, and had packaged it in this cute little packaging. And he said, and she sold it at craft shows, and she made $30,000 last month. Well, boy, did that get my attention. I mean, holy cow, that was more than we made in an entire year. And he said, and she didn't even ask if she could use the recipe, and they're in California on the West Coast, and you're on the East Coast. And he said, "I'm thinking that maybe you should do this just to get yourself out of the hole." And so we started chatting about it, and I'll tell you, I got really excited about my sixth business idea because this one had a track record. So as we chatted about it, I remembered he had two ideas, and I'm like, "Hey, Dad, what was that other idea?" Now, this was when he got passionate and super animated. He's like, "Oh, my gosh, I hired a coach." Now, this was 1989, and I can promise you I'd never heard the term life coach or business coach before. So when he said he hired a coach, the only thing I could picture was my dad like in a soccer uniform, and I'm like, "Seriously, Dad, you are way too old to play sports." And he's like, no, not that kind of a coach, kind of like a business consultant. And he told me how he had hired this guy who was the student of Napoleon Hill who wrote Think and Grow Rich. And he waited for me to be super impressed. But I have to tell you, I was in my mid-20s, and I had never heard of Think and Grow Rich or Napoleon Hill. And he's like, "Okay, anyway," he said, he's taught me this goal-setting technique, and he said, "Ann, over the last 12 months," he goes, "you haven't been home. You've been, stranded out there on the East Coast." He said, "But I quadrupled my income. I paid cash for a Cadillac this year, and I paid my house off, my mortgage." Now, I knew my dad's income was always $50,000, and I'm like, "Seriously, quadrupled? Like you made $200,000 in 1988?" And he goes, "Yeah, I did." And then he bottom lined it, and he said, "Look, I'm thinking between this business idea that I just gave you and this goal-setting technique that I'm going to teach you about that I learned, maybe you can get something going for yourself financially." Obviously, my dad's not going to let his daughter and his two granddaughters starve to death, and he had bailed us out on a couple of occasions. So he handed me this little pamphlet or this little book, and he said, "Read it." And he goes, "Don't go home and do your usual goal-setting technique," because, of course, right after Christmas is New Year's, and I would always bullet point my weak and generic goals on a yellow legal pad for the year, stick them in a drawer, and never look at them again, with results, honestly, that were fair to mediocre, not that great. So he handed me this booklet. It was self-published, 20 pages, and I started reading this little pamphlet, and it said, "Write your goals first person, present tense, as if they had already happened." Now, I'm telling you, that's kind of mainstream now, but 25 years ago, affirmations were brand new back then. Writing your goals as if they had already happened was weird. In fact, it was downright crazy. And so I'm like, really? But anyway, again, because of my financial situation, I'm like, I don't have anything to lose. Not to mention, my dad had done something really well with this. So I got on my typewriter, because heaven knows we couldn't afford a computer at that point, and I typed something that went like this: I have a waffle business, and by December 31st, 1989, I make $20,000 selling 6,000 bags of wassail at 6 craft shows. And every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 1 to 3 in the afternoon, I make the necessary phone calls and accomplish the tasks that I need to. And it feels incredible to be on top of things financially. Okay, something like that. And I went and did it in all areas of my life. So I did it spiritually and relationships. And when I was done, I had about a 1.5-page typed document, I guess, if you'd call it. And I thought, okay, that was kind of weird, but it really wasn't that bad. It wasn't as weird as I thought it was going to be. And I thought I was done. I thought that was the whole thing I was supposed to do until my dad called the next day. And he's like, hey, Ann, did you record it? And I'm like, well, what are you talking about? And he said, you're supposed to record it. Look at part 2. So I found that booklet, and I flipped the page over, and there was part 2, and part 2 simply said this: now record it in your own voice on a cassette tape recorder with Baroque music playing in the background. Well, let's just put it this way. So you can imagine if I thought part 1 was weird, what I thought about part 2. I remember actually frisbeeing that book right into the trash can and saying, heck no, I'm not doing that. But I started thinking about it, and I thought, really? My dad made $200,000 doing this. Are you kidding? I have to. So I went to the library the next day, told the librarian I needed a tape recorder and some Baroque music. And she giggled, and then she giggled some more, and then she burst out laughing. I'm like, what is wrong? And she goes, honey, that's Baroque music, not Baroque music. And to be honest, I had no idea what Baroque music was. And if some of you are out there going, yeah, me either, I'll tell you in just a minute. But she started handing me tapes like Mozart and Bach and Handel, and she said, this is Baroque music. So I took a bunch home, took this cassette tape, and ran home to record my first ever LifeVision. Okay, so I want you to kind of imagine this scenario, kind of see if you can visualize this. I have a big, bulky, 1 by 1 foot tape recorder. I'm playing Mozart on it. I grabbed my kid's Fisher-Price tape recorder. I have my 1.5-page typed LifeVision that I had typed out on my computer, and I start reading it. Okay, the music's playing, and now I'm reading, and I'm about 1 minute into it when all of a sudden my 2 little girls started fighting and screaming and running into the room. Mom, she's hitting me! Get her off me! And they're yelling and fighting and screaming, and now all of this is on my tape. So I have to start over, and I have to rewind these 2 tapes. And it was, kind of a big deal. And I put my kids in front of Sesame Street, and I lock the door, and I start over. And now I'm about 2 minutes. In fact, I'm all like halfway done, or close to it, maybe a third of the way done, and all of a sudden the phone rings because I forgot to take the phone off the hook, and the phone ringing is now on my cassette tape. And let me just say it's one of those days that anything that could go wrong did go wrong. Next, it was my kids pounding on the door, let us in, let us in. And I'm like, please, no, I won't hear it on the tape. It's going to be fine. But sure enough, I listened to it, and I could hear the kids pounding on the door and chanting in the background on my tape. So needless to say, 3 hours later, after lots of problems like that, I finally had my 10-minute tape done. And so obviously the next step is to listen to it. And that went really good for about 2 days. And somewhere around the second day, I heard myself say, I make $20,000. And I thought to myself, yeah, right, Ann. You've never even made $200 out of business, and now you think you're going to make $20,000. Get real. So I don't know how many of you have ever had those little voices that tell you that you can't do something, but I unfortunately listened to them. And I listened to the part that said, get real. And I thought, oh, Ann, you can't do a business. Look how bad you've stunk at 6 businesses. get real. And so I thought, yeah, 20,000, that's unrealistic. What's realistic? And I came up with the number 5,000. Now, I'll be honest, even in my heart of hearts, I didn't think I could make 5,000, but boy, did I need 5,000, or we were going to basically get thrown in jail for not paying our bills. So 5,000 became the new number, but here's the deal. The thought of having to go back and re-record that nightmare experience I had to change one word from 20,000 to 5,000, no way. I am way, way, way too lazy to do that. So my lazy self said, look, I know when I'm going to say 20,000 on the tape, I'll just vocally say 5,000 over the top. Okay, so I want you to kind of try and picture this. Back in the day, if you would have seen me back in the late 80s, I would have been walking my two little girls in the stroller down the road listening to my Walkman. We didn't have iPods back then or iPhones. We had Walkman, which held a big cassette tape. And I would be listening to it. Okay, here it comes. 5,000. I would have said 5,000 out loud over my recorded 20,000. And that's what I did. And trust me, I got lots of strange stares from people. Even my husband would always say, why do you always say 5,000? I don't get it. And I didn't tell him because I was too embarrassed to tell him how lazy I was. So that worked really good for about 2 weeks. And I still remember the day that I put my kids in their car seats. We drove off to the grocery store. We got to the grocery store, and I could hear the sound of the tape rewinding. Probably most of you are too young to know what a cassette tape rewinding sounds like, but it's a very distinct sound, and I remember thinking to myself, did I listen to my LifeVision? Well, I don't remember listening to it, but I must have because it's rewinding, and I panicked. And I thought to myself, how am I supposed to accomplish my goals if I can't even focus on them for 10 minutes? And I went home and I found that booklet that my dad had given me, and on the back was this guy's name and number, and I called him. It took a lot of courage, but I called him and I said, look, you don't know me from Adam, but my dad's one of your clients, and I did your silly, he called it the creed back then. And I said, and I did your silly creed, and I just have one question. How do I accomplish my goals if I keep checking out and daydreaming and I'm not even listening? I spaced out, and he said, one question. Did you record it with the music? And I said, I did. And why did I do that? The thing that was so funny to me even to this day is I had gone 2 weeks and I never wondered why I had recorded it with the music. And so I asked him and he said, oh, because it's in so many hertzels and it puts you in alpha and blah, 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 and everything he said was so scientific that it went straight over my head. And I'm like, can you just, say that one more time in English? Because, I don't even know what you said. And he's like, oh, I can't. My client just walked in. Just keep listening. It's going to work. So, needless to say, sometimes I would be listening and I would focus. Okay, here it comes. 5,000. And I would say 5,000 over my recording of 20,000. Other times, completely daydreaming, checked out. It's kind of like when you read a book and 10 pages into it, you realize you've been thinking about something else. Same experience. And you can imagine listening to the same thing over and over. At some point, truly, you're going to check out. So sometimes I wouldn't say anything. So I'm hoping that you guessed the end of my story. I made $19,000 between $300 and $500. And I was beside myself excited because I had almost doubled our income. And my husband said, Joe, he goes, you should put a 0 on the back of that for next year. Now, remember, I had to put my husband through 6 years of college, therefore I didn't finish. And so I don't know my math like I should, and I'm trying to do it. 20,000 with a 0 on the back. 200,000, and he said, I'm just kidding. But the more I thought about it, the more I thought, if I can sell one product, maybe I can sell 3 products. And if I can retail, maybe I can retail and wholesale. And if I can go do 6 craft shows, maybe he can go do 6 craft shows, meaning my husband. I was too scared to put 200,000. Holy cow, that was a lot of money. But just for fun and for an experiment, I decided to rewrite my LifeVision and change it to 100,000 for 1990. And I thought, well, if I'm going to re-record, I'm going to up-level all areas of my life. So I rewrote the whole thing, up-leveled all my goals, and it became about a 6-page typed LifeVision. That year, we made $93,000. So again, I'm a little bit short, but I have to tell you, I didn't really care because that was a lot of money. And within 30 months after that, I had a 7-figure or a multi-million-dollar company. So that is my story, okay? And maybe now you can, see why I'm so passionate about this. But let's nutshell, what is a LifeVision? So by definition, some of my clients call it a minutely detailed personal mission statement. Others have referred to it as a declaration of intent. Okay, regardless of what you decide to call it, it's about two things, clarity and focus. So let me expand just for a second on the clarity part. When I say clarity, I'm talking minute clarity, okay, not just the what, but also the when, the by when, the how, the action plan, the emotion, and the motivation. And I'm going to give you an example of this in just a minute because I want everyone to really be able to wrap their mind around this. So in just a second. But what do I mean by focus? Okay, you heard the story. Record it in your own voice with accelerated learning music and listen to it every day. So I'm going to go over that in just a little teeny bit more detail. Okay, why would you record it? Okay, for two reasons. Because that's how it imprints onto your subconscious. Okay, in other words, it's the listening of the recording that changes the neural pathways in your brain. But the second reason is actually much more practical. If I had to read an 11-page, okay, my current LifeVision right now is 11 pages single-space typed. If I had to read that every day, do you think I would? Heck no. There's no chance. That's a really hard habit to develop. But if I can listen to it while I'm driving my car, while I'm exercising, while I'm filing, doing some kind of mindless work, it's actually a really easy habit to develop. In your own voice. Okay, I don't know how many of you know this, but your voice is your most believable voice. Now, I've had people question me on that, kind of raise their eyebrows. Really? Okay, but think about it. Think about all of that negative self-talk you've bought into over the last 20 or 30 years. Yep, you believed it. And if you compared the results from a generic affirmation CD that you buy, that someone else recorded and sells you, and compare it to your own voice, saying your specific, minute, detailed goals with a lot of clarity, the results are like 100 times more powerful. And then we use this certain kind of music, super accelerated learning music, because that's what puts your brain and your body into a state called alpha. And if you've ever heard of the Mozart effect, okay, the idea that moms play a certain, Mozart for their babies or their kids while they're doing their homework, it's the same idea in principle. Okay, I know that's like a super short flyover, and in my program we go over that in a lot more detail, but it's the combination of those elements, minute clarity, the knowing of what you want, your own voice, the music, and the daily focus. That's where the magic is. Okay, so enough about what it is. Let's talk about what it can do and what it can do for you. Now, I don't like to be super sensational, but I do like to show from one end of the spectrum to the other what can be accomplished with LifeVision. So let's start with the super cool things that have been accomplished, in the network marketing industry. So I've had several clients that went from, less than 10 in their downline, making around 100 a month, to in 90 days receiving a check for $5,000 or more and maintaining it. Okay, another client went from 1,000 to 15,000 in 5 months. One of my favorites, Rich, an appropriate name, he was already making a lot of money when I started coaching him, but he hit six figures a month, okay, his big goal. Okay, again, not super typical, but it can happen. More typical is hitting, 3,000 to 5,000 monthly within 6 to 8 months. Or like Crystal, who emailed me just after paying her taxes that she had made 6 figures for the first time in her life, thanks to Ideal LifeVision. So, I'm just going to kind of throw this out here. I know this is a little bit kind of a different thing, but it's not Isagenix business per se, but I've had, Adrian and Irene, both people on your team who used it to compete in fitness competitions, had struggled before using LifeVision and after using it, placed in, the top 5 in their category. Okay, and they were amazed at the results they were able to get by just getting clear and focused on what they want. So let's get down to the brass tacks, and I'm going to share just a sample of what I'm talking about. Okay, so I'm going to share with you just a little bit of an example of an Isagenix LifeVision. Okay, and I'm going to just tell you this. I'm only going to read a little bit of it because this is about 2.5 to 3 pages long, and it would take me 10 minutes or 8 minutes to read it. So I'm just going to read a little bit. Okay? As an Isagenix executive, I'm not only providing the world with powerful life and health-changing nutritional products, but also a strategy and system to help people get out of debt, create long-term residual income, and create a life of time and money freedom. I am building my own financial empire by sharing Isagenix with others. I am focused primarily on building my Isagenix team and income on Monday through Thursday from 10 to 3 p.m. and on Fridays from 10 to 2. My team and clients honor my business hours. I feel blessed to lead the fastest growing team. As a leader, I set the pace for my entire organization with urgency. When I enroll a new associate, I create urgency for them to create income within the first 72 hours and help them engage in the business correctly from the moment they sign up. I easily explain to them the wealth building system. U plus 2, them plus 2, and also the ACDME presentations that teach them how to create an extra $3,050 in their first 30 to 90 days by reaching the rank of Crystal Executive. Okay? So that's like 2 paragraphs, 2 or 3, and like I say, that's maybe a sixth of it. The rest of them go on, talk about being a leader, multiple paragraphs actually on being a leader and presenting the opportunity, talking to people, making calls, all of that kind of stuff. So imagine having that in your brain every day and then having it imprint so that it literally becomes a part of who you are as it imprints onto your subconscious. And even better, imagine sharing that with your downline so that they can have something that powerful in their brain too. So you take what's working for you and use this tool as an implementation system. Okay? And I wish we had more hours. If we had more hours, I'd share with you so much more, on how and why this works and exactly, how to do it. But it works actually in all areas of your life. Now, I'm going to just go on a little bit of a tangent and just kind of share about how I even got hooked up with Isagenix. So this was maybe 6 months ago. I was actually at a meetup because in my LifeVision, it very specifically talks about marketing and going to networking events and meeting new people and different things like that. And I got invited to a meetup by an Isagenix distributor. And when I went there, I have to tell you, I knew not that much about Isagenix. And so when Jill Birth approached me, I'll be honest, I had no idea who she was. And she said, while you were talking, Ann, I had a really kind of a powerful feeling that you could help me with a couple of things in my life. And so I worked with her for a little bit, and within 2 weeks she saw some results that she told me, honestly, I never thought that would happen in my wildest dreams. And so then, I continued to work with her and other people in Isagenix and I think Adrian and Danny and a few people came to a workshop that she held. So that's just kind of a little tangent on, how I kind of got hooked up with Isagenix was just, frankly, by meeting a couple of, leaders here out of Utah. So for those of you that are ready, for a powerful transformation, and maybe you want to create your own Isagenix LifeVision and get a copy of that complete Isagenix LifeVision, I want you to write down this link. And it is, I'll give you a second to write it down. It's not the shortest link in the world, but it's ideallifevision.com So ideallifevision.com/Isagenix-LifeVision. Okay, so one more time, ideallifevision.com/Isagenix-LifeVision. So let me just take a minute to explain kind of what this is. Over the past year, I've trained about 1,000 network marketers in one-day or half-day workshops. Some have traveled to Utah literally out of the state for 3 hours to get trained in this. And then they wanted me to come to their area and train it to their downlines. But they weren't able to get 100 people together because their downlines were just starting to grow, and they weren't in the same location. They were spread all over the country. So because of a lot of disappointment with people, all over the country who wanted to create an Isagenix LifeVision, I decided to record my 3-hour training and put it on a CD and digital download. So hopefully you're on that website now. Again, ideallifevision.com/Isagenix-LifeVision. And if you scroll down that page, somewhere around the middle, you're going to see what's included. So it's a 3-part training. Session number 1 is the introduction. Okay, an important introduction on how and why an Isagenix LifeVision works, some success stories that others have created using it, and the mechanics. Okay, so what we haven't had a chance to talk about is the step-by-step instructions on creating your unique Isagenix LifeVision. Okay, session number 2 is the nuts and bolts. Okay, I've taken an existing Isagenix LifeVision that absolutely is getting results. Okay, and I break it down paragraph by paragraph. That is going to be like your daily, your weekly schedule, nourishing your network, supporting your downline, connecting with your upline, income goals, mindset, personal development goals, and more. And you will know exactly how to create your Isagenix LifeVision after that session. Okay, session number 3 is focus and finishing your LifeVision. So you'll learn about what kind of music to use, focus on by recording, and then finishing the other areas of your LifeVision. So I'll tell you how you can find out more about that. Find out the tools to get your complete LifeVision or your Isagenix LifeVision recorded, and then discover how to complete the entire LifeVision. And then finally, the download of the template. Okay, the ultimate Isagenix LifeVision that you can use as a sample or a template, and then customize it. Okay, and if you keep scrolling down, you'll see the price of $49.95 if you want the digital download, or $59.95 plus shipping if you want the digital download and the physical product mailed to your door. So, I'm going to have you write down my email as well, just in case some of you struggled, getting on the right link. My email is ann.webb. I'll give you my easy one, at gmail.com, okay, ann.webb@gmail.com. If you have, any problems, getting onto this. So just kind of to wrap up this call, I know my goal was to be off of here in 45 minutes, and we're about there right now. But just to kind of sum it up, I'm not sure how many of you know Jack Canfield. He's the author and the founder of Chicken Soup for the Soul, creator of the Success Principles, a runaway bestseller. This is what he had to say. He said, "I love this program. It gives the average person a cost-effective way to combine personalized background music with their own vision of their ideal life and create a CD or an MP3 for their iPod or their MP3 player. When you can listen to your vision every day and burn it deeply into your subconscious mind, this assures an accelerated achievement of your goals." Okay? So the other thing that I kind of forgot to mention, but I will tell you this: we are with George and Danny and in Irene, Adrian, in Utah on November 8th. We're also going to be having a all-day workshop. So if that interests you, now it's not going to be $50. In fact, it's going to be, closer to $200. But you'll get the whole program, a full-day training. Please email me and let me know your interest, or George know your interest as well. But I think what I've learned is the first step is to start by just creating this Isagenix LifeVision. Again, it's easy for me to say this because I've trained thousands of people and I've seen the results. Guys, at $49, this is a no-brainer, okay? I mean, with the things that I've seen people accomplish, you'll probably make that back times 100 very easily, okay, and quickly. So again, idealifevision.com/Isagenix-LifeVision. Okay, so one last little thing. I just want to just kind of end on this note. I'm not sure if, if Danny or George want to say anything, but I'm just going to end with this because this is the last thought I want to leave with you, that the best way to predict the future is to create it, okay? So keep that in mind. Love for the chance to, work with you and help you and, basically, I guess, quote unquote, rewire your brain, okay? Get some, start your business off right or with a different mindset. So thank you all for attending. I appreciate that. And we'll talk to you later. I don't know if George or Danny want to come back on here or not really.
Yeah, I just want to add, guys, make sure you go to her website again because many people, it's funny, many times they're saying, well, why do I have to invest? Guys, education, if you think that education is expensive, and by the way, this is not expensive at all. I mean, it's $59 for both versions, the digital and also the hard copy. And this is so important. But guys, I remember somebody told me one time, he said, if you think that education is expensive, think how much it costs ignorance. These principles, although there are principles that you probably have heard before, if you want to know really how to use these principles and this technology the way that's supposed to, the best way is to get it from the expert, and Webb is an expert on this. And guys, we have about a little more than 90 days to the end of the year. And right now it's a great time to start putting this technology because by the time December 31st comes and you're ready to have or write down your goals for the following year, actually you are already going to be on your way to those goals. And that's why it's so important to start with a technology like that that's going to help to reprogram your brain. And at the same time, make sure that you get ready also for the event that we are going to have here in November because the cool thing is that you can bring your LifeVision, and I think that's something that you're going to do. They can bring the LifeVision, and you can actually help them to refine it.
Yep. At that point, so you'll have 6 weeks or 6 or 7 weeks to be working on your Isagenix LifeVision, and then when you come, it'll be for those that can make it to Utah, it'll be a live workshop, and we'll go over and redo and up-level the one that you've already written. I can help you with it. And we'll continue on with the rest of the sections so that they're all in place by the end of the year so we can go into, 2014 as powerfully as we absolutely can be.
Yeah, that's right. And 2014, by the way, is a lucky number. You say, what? What do you mean lucky number? Well, I always into adding numbers. 2 plus 1 and plus 4 is 7. It's a lucky number year.
Yeah.
And make sure, and then thank you very much for being on the call.